Welcome to part 2 of our carp fix session film at the Serpentine Lake on the Baston complex, which is under the Embryo Angling banner. Now this lake is going to be a day ticket lake very soon. Previously it was a syndicate and it is right next door to the shallow pit just behind. Now Baston Serpentine Lake has roughly 120 carp inside. There's fish to over 30 pounds. And they're relatively young, not been in here too long, and they've not been caught that much. You know, it's been a very quiet syndicate lake. Now, in part 1, we started off in the corner of the lake over there, and fished down the reed lines to start with, underarm chucks, big pod of carp in the corner. Seemed like the right thing to do. Chucked the zig rig out into open water, but after sort of doing the night, it was quite clear that we wasn't going to catch doing what we were doing. The fish had been in the edge during the day and overnight had moved out into the middle of the lake, and they didn't seem like they were coming to the edge to feed. They'd been in the edge sunbathing and such, and it really seemed that there's a little bit of a weed bed in the middle, and they were showing this side of the weed bed sort of around it, all over this main open bowl of open water. And I made the decision to come round to this swim because it fishes out towards that weed bed, and there's a nice clear spot sort of, I don't know, sort of 30, 40 yards back from this surface weed, and there was a lot of activity in front of this swim. Now, this swim had actually been closed at one point, and it's just in the process of being reopened. There's a few sleepers at the back. They need to cut the trees back and whatnot, but it's going to be open for when the lake opens as a day ticket. And with regards to the spots and stuff, I'm fishing 12 rod lengths out, straight in front of the swim, and left and right of where I'm fishing there's quite thick weed, and then there's a clear spot between these two weed beds, and like I said just a minute ago, a massive weed bed just beyond. Now I've baited this clear spot with 25 spoms off the opening, that was my opening attack, and I caught a 26 pounder really quickly, and I've topped up with another 8 spoms since that 26 pound common. Now, when we caught that fish, it was overcast and it looked absolutely perfect. You know, since then the sun's come out, the sky's cleared, and you would say it's not bite time at the moment. You know, it's not the best time to catch fish, but it's just coming up to 6 o'clock in the evening, and I think as we move into the last couple of hours of daylight, sort of 8 o'clock towards 10 o'clock, probably a reasonable chance of a take. And I think obviously in the hours of darkness, but certainly tomorrow morning. I think tomorrow morning's the key time. Yesterday morning when I was in that swim opposite, I wasn't on the right spot and I wasn't using the right tactics. And having caught one so quickly after moving in here, after putting some bait out, I feel that I've got the right tactics. So if the fish are still in the vicinity this evening, tonight, tomorrow morning, I really think we've got a good shout of getting amongst a few. That's the theory anyway. You know, it's never, when you talk, talk is cheap until it's proved correct. But I feel confident, and yeah, we'll have to see what the rest of the session brings. But yeah, we're in the right spot, I feel, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. Oh, yeah. Mate, they pull in here, mate, off the bat. It's right in that big weed bed at the back there, I think. It's gone solid in the weed. Barbless hooks on, can't really slacken off, just hold the pressure. Really stuck that. Just going to ease off a little bit and then pull again. Quite stuck that. One more slacken off. That's on there still, it's on there. There it goes. Right, that fish, or this fish, just got heavily weeded up to the point that I really didn't want to pull any harder. And in that situation, you can easily end up ripping the hook out. And what I did is pulled as hard as I dared, like for a minute or two, without gaining. And then I slackened off, not completely because I'm using barbless hook, but just took the tension out, like just enough to let the weed relax from its tightened down position. And one point the fish started taking line and went back to its sort of original anchor point. And then the second time when I relaxed, it sort of, next time I tightened back into it, it came free. Good tactic that when you're fishing really, really weedy lakes. Like, do try and pull them out straight away, but if you get to a point where you think I'm pulling far too hard here, that definitely pays at times just to ease off a bit, let the weed relax, let the fish get free from the weed itself before pulling. Oh, coming through the reeds. There we go. There we go. Oh, I thought I lost it then round the reed. Come on. Come on. We're nearly there. Yes. We got him. We got him. Yes. Nice scaly mirror that. Now, fishing in sort of heavy weed requires the use of strong tackle. When I say strong tackle, you know, a minimum of 15-pound main line, and not just looking at the breaking strain of the line, more so the diameter. I would recommend that if it's quite heavy weed, then you want to be using at least 0.4 mil line. Now that'd be a 15-pound carp line. I'm actually using the 20-pound carp line, which is a 0.43. And if you're fishing it around thick weed, even on clear spots, there's a really good chance that at some point during the battle fight of a fish, that it will find sanctuary in the weed. Now, in that situation, it's really important not to panic and not to get carried away pulling too hard. When a fish goes solid for me, I immediately increase the tension a little bit, trying to draw it through the weed and really just trying to keep it moving. But at the point when it's a stalemate, I can feel that I'm pulling reasonably hard, the fish isn't moving, the tension's staying the same, nothing's really giving. I will sort of keep that position for 30 seconds to a minute, just a good amount of tension on the rod, just hoping that the tension is drawing the fish through the weed and the weed is tearing. But failing that, you know, you could obviously increase the tension further, but I always think that you run the risk of pulling the hook in that situation. And one of my favourite tactics to do in that sort of situation is to just ease off. And when I say ease off, I don't mean slack line. I mean just take all of the tension out of the line, all the curve out of the rod. And what I'm hoping is, where the weed is all pulled tight originally, as you ease off, it gives the weed a chance to sort of go back to its original position, makes the fish feel a little bit free, a little bit loose, maybe not pulled into the weed. And quite often you will find that the fish will come free of its own accord. But not every time. That doesn't happen every time. Sometimes just after easing off, the fish hasn't come free. And then when I wind down and put the pressure on the second time, sometimes it just tears free better like that. And I think with barbless hooks, you have to be careful not to slacken off too much. With barbed hooks, you can get away with slacking off a bit more. But I would always advocate letting off the tension rather than going heavy-handed straight off the bat, because you could risk pulling the hook. Right, it's 7:15. Just caught that fish. I just recasting after it. That's the right-hand rod. I'm going to refresh the left-hand one as well, because the right-hand rod's done 2 bites while that left one sat there not doing anything. Probably nothing wrong with it, but just moving into dark, I think it's probably a good idea to make sure it's as good as it can possibly be. And I'm also going to top the bait up. I think I'm going to put another 6, 7, 8 spoms out there, and then I'm going to take a look at that fish. Now, on a lot of venues these days, first of all, they're getting regular introduction of stock carp, fish that have been farmed and they've been fed on pellets in the early part of their life. When you combine that with fisheries that are supplementing the feed of these fish with pellets, I think it's almost becomes natural food to the fish. And although pellets would never be my sort of first choice when fishing for sort of wild carp in sort of public venues, when you're fishing syndicate lakes that are filled with carp that have come from stock ponds that see regular introductions of, I say, house pellet, then I would say you'd be very, very silly to not use that. I've noticed it many times on many venues all over the place, even as far afield as Parco di Brenta in Italy. If a lot of pellet goes in the lake, the fish will get super tuned to the house pellet, and it's a great, great starting point. Well, how's about that for an intro to part 2? 27.5 pounds. Lovely, lovely colours on this. Obviously the water here at Serpentine is crystal clear, and that makes the carp lovely and dark, just like this one. The rods are back out, the bait has been topped up, and it's 8 o'clock, which means one thing: United and Spurs in the Europa Cup final. So we're going to get him back, get a beer open, and come on United.